Brighton's finest.
This is Juice.
Do you have any idea how many shows you've played in the past 30 years?
Oh my gosh. No, I actually don't. But it's something that I've wondered if there was a way to actually figure it out. Pre-internet, it's just there's not a lot of records. You know what I mean?
Course.
So it's harder to go back and figure that kind of thing out. But I would be curious to know, like if we were about to play our 1,000th show or something, maybe we've passed that already. But it would be interesting to know if we were near some sort of milestone.
It definitely would be. So how, after all this time, because this is going to be your 11th album, and What a Time to Be Alive, the new one sounds just as fresh and new as some of your very first releases. So what do you do to keep things fresh and to keep things sounding new?
Oh, well, thanks for saying that, and I'm glad that it sounds like that. I think that we have really with each record tried to do something different, and I feel like each record has its own character. And certainly, if you ask our fans, they all have different favorite records, But with the new one, in some ways, I feel like the energy is similar to our second or third record, in the sense that it's pretty short, loud, fast songs, and we've never spent a ton of time in the studio. It's just not really our thing. But again, we kind of made this one like those, just writing these kind of punky songs and then going in the studio and recording them pretty quickly without overthinking things. And it's the first record since probably Here's Where the Strings Come In, or maybe since Foolish, actually, that doesn't have any keyboards on it. The songs just really lent themselves to being pretty stripped down, except for all the guitars, of course.
So would you say that kind of almost ferocity of recording, that is the main difference in mindset between this and, say, your last album, I Hate Music?
There's maybe more variance of tone on that record. And that record it's a lot of it's about friends dying and pretty heavy subjects, and the new one's about heavy subjects as well, but it's a little bit more kind of anger infused, I think, than sadness,
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about the title track, What a Time to Be Alive?
Yeah, that was one of the first songs I wrote for the record, and maybe took the longest with, actually, in terms of figuring out the best structure and the chords and everything, though I had the idea for the chorus in my mind for a long time. And that's kind of about this idea that this kind of new strain of white nationalism in some ways was being normalized by the media. People like Richard Spencer and these essentially like today's Nazis, were getting profiled in national newspapers as like, oh, look at this fashionable new version of, white supremacy. And how it's just kind of this thing that's always been with us, at least here in the States, since the founding of the country. And every once in a while it makes this push to kind of be normalized or mainstreamed, and just how, we can't let that happen.
I do get a sense, though, from what you've released so far, the two singles, that there's kind of an urgency to it, like all the stars aligned and you suddenly thought, you know what, we need to make this album now. Can you explain to me where that sense of urgency came from?
I think you're right. I mean, I think that the record is largely about, and the writing of it was driven by, the political situation here, and other places in the world as well, but, specifically around the 2016 election here, and the kind of anxiety that can produce in people that value our democracy and civil rights and other things like that. And so I think that once I started writing the songs, you're right, I think that it would have been strange to then sit on them for 2 years or something. There was a sense of urgency of, even without looking too far down the road to know, like, well, can we do a tour? Can we do all this other stuff? It was more like, let's just record this and put it out and then see what happens. Because I feel like, having been in this record label business and making music for a long time, there is a weariness with the rollout, as they say. Now you put out this thing, and then you make this video, and then you do this press cycle, and it can feel like I said, it can feel like forever between when you make your record and when it comes out. And I think that the kind of urgency and the energy of these songs kind of lends itself to that. And, like I said, the subject matter it's kind of about a dire situation, but at the same time, I feel like the music is not a bummer. Like, I think it's still a fun record to listen to.
So, Erasure, the latest single, is kind of about that, isn't it? Can you explain to me a little bit about that song? Yeah,
the song Erasure was actually, it's about the kind of rise of it's really like an old guard, conservative, right-wing movement here in the U.S. at least, largely driven by racism and this desire to marginalize anyone that's not white, that's not, marginalizing the experience, essentially trying to erase the existence of entire populations of people, whether it's minorities or gay people or whoever the right wing sees as somehow a threat to their hegemony. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see it at work right now every day over here in the government, whether it's the president or Jeff Sessions, who's our attorney general. And I feel like that's their goal. And it's almost like they think that if they can just pretend that these entire populations of people don't exist or that they don't deserve to exist, then they can, hold on to what they see as their rightful power. It's grim, and if you live here and you're a human being with empathy for other human beings, the challenge is, to, of course, do what you can to resist that, but also, you still have to live your life and get up and do your job and raise your kids and do all the stuff that you can't do if you're just walking around in a rage all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a lot of the record is about that. How do you kind of exist and live your life without, just going out of your mind from what's happening all around you?
Of course.
Brighton's finest.
This is Juice.